Hello everyone, it's Matt here and welcome to the second April update for the Streamline project. In the previous video I talked about how the scale was off between the coaches and the Loco and the locomotive, even the locomotive sender with the actual Loco part. So this video is the work of about 2 weeks, maybe a bit more, both physically and on the computer, in terms of actually changing the design around so it actually suits the whole scale for the project better, so that it all works in conjunction better and it looks better aesthetically, and it actually in some instances even performs better. So anyway, before I delay any further, let's have a look at the changes physically now. Firstly to the Loco and the tender, and then to the coach itself, and then after that we'll have a look at the changes in LEGO Digital Designer.
We'll start having a look at the Loco by first having a look at the tender, and there's not been much in the way of changes to this. The biggest changes have been the addition of some more roofing section and some filling in other bits, just so that it looks more complete. Obviously these should be in blue to match the Loco body, and the addition of the cab handrails, obviously because of the bricking order having the required clip brick 1x1s with clips attached. In terms of everything else, there's not been much in the way of changes, largely due to the fact that this whole tender is going to be being extended and modified in the future, so there's not much point making much in the way of changes aside from the little ones like this, because it was about a 5-second job just to get sort of break that second, because obviously that's a row of 1x1 bricks. Just break that out from the rear and put the new ones in. So obviously this is just awaiting for the redesign. So the tender out the way, let's now have a look at the locomotive, and this looks a lot different to how it looked previously, and you can probably tell just from the pictures you're seeing that there's a lot more different with it, and there is and isn't. The biggest change obviously is the filling in of the boiler section due to the bricking order that arrived not that long ago. There's been a few other changes and tweaks. The first of all being the addition of some of the skirting underneath this side of the cab. That's to see how it looks like in real life, and to be honest that looks kind of good, but obviously that might come under scrutiny when I go around to changing the mechanism for the rear trailing truck. In terms of the changes, there's been a few part submissions or changes since the last one. So some of these blue bricks have been changed to were changed from previous colours, such as greys, reds, yellows, to the correct blue. And I've also added the cylinders in using components both from stock and from the last brickling order. So that is kind of how they'll look in real life when it's complete, except for the fact that the colours are wrong. So obviously that still needs some investigation. The valve gear that's currently here, which is this bit, which are these pieces here, is currently under aesthetic checks. Obviously, this big bar piece is actually being taken out, and so is this old Technic plate piece, because those are being swapped out for 3D printed parts, which will look a lot better than these currently do. So obviously these pieces are here just as a temporary thing, just to get essentially the wheels aligned together, partly because of assembly reasons and part because it was easier to align the gears on the inside using the cross braces to do that. In terms of other changes, I don't really think there's been much. I've investigated some of the mechanism side and had a look at a few of the bits of the bodywork, but overall most of the work has been digitally to get some of the redesign work in, and the only other thing I've really been looking at is raising the height so that it matches the other coaching stock, so that it actually looks at the correct height. So obviously this is how it currently looks in its form. So obviously this tender needs to be extended out another 3 studs, but overall that's the sort of length you're looking at, and that at the moment, if I will this back to here, that's the start of one, track piece there, so you got a brake there, and the brake there. So it's currently about 3.5 track lengths in total. So if you're going to build a turntable for this, a 4-track section would be what you needed. So you're probably looking at about 64 studs, and obviously that would be about there. So you'd have about 4 studs on either side, which is negligible really, but that's the kind of space you'd need on a turntable should you be building something similar to this. Now obviously this is the Loco. The most work I've been doing physically has actually been with the coach, so let's have a look at that now. Right, so it's time to bring on the coach now, and you can just about see it coming on, and you can see that there's been a few changes since the last time, and there's actually been quite a lot of changes since the last time. So just for comparison purposes, this is now aligned with how it was on the old model in terms of comparison. So you can sort of see where the original body ended here, we've gone quite a lot further that way in terms of comparison to the old one. And the reason for that is there's been a complete redesign of the entire subframe, of the entire body shells and everything else, which I'll come on to later when we look at the Lego Digital Designer version. You can sort of see the capacity of the old one is no match for the capacity of the new one. And all the old features have been copied over to the new one. So for the observation car, you've still got the bar section, you've still got the seating, but in actual fact it's actually better than the old one because there's actually more seating and there's more table seats. So this actually is a lot better in your version. The bogies have already been modified to a new version, so I'd actually prototype this physically first before transferring the design into Lego Digital Designer. And the old removable coach is still there. And in actual fact, these are actually still the same modules as the old one, so I've not actually changed these. So the only difference has been the addition of a 6-long one to cope with the extra length. So you can sort of see that these are still the 10 stud long ones from before. So obviously 2 of these are in the original coach, and this is the level of the addition. So we've actually added 16 studs. Yeah. Where's the other one? Is that 16? Yeah, because that's 10, that's 6, yeah, so that's 16. In terms of detailing, the underframe is slightly more detailed because we've got these filler caps or dials, for example. The end of the coach is pretty much the same. There's been a few changes to the roof physically to make sure that it's actually supportive. We've added the marker lights, which we'll look at in a second, but predominantly the big changes in the interior. So I'm going to move the bogies down slightly, so we can tilt it down. Sorry about that. And you can actually see, in terms of detail, it's pretty much the same as before. There's still plenty of seats. There's actually a seat missing, which should go where the 2x2 round plate is. Because I've ran out of seats, and I've actually ran out of the 2x2 round plates that go under the seats in the previous order. All these seats are going to be changed around to a different colour. I think it's going to be the sort of like dark green, which is supposed to imitate the sort of like rather plush leather that you'd find in some railroad companies' coaches. The only other addition from the previous design because of the extra space has been the extension of the bar section from 5 studs to 6, and I've just actually knocked off the table lamp. But all the detail is exactly the same, so it's all got the bar section and the coffee maker, etc. But just the length is better. So obviously once I've added a few people, this will actually look a lot better. So I'll just go and rescue the lamp. And the lamps are all still the same design of a round stud, a cone piece, and then a trans clear 1x1 round, and then a 1x2 tile for the top section. So I'm just going to add this back in now. We don't lose it. So here is the end section, and you can see that this pretty much is the same design as the old one, especially from the weight, sort of like the waistline up, but below it's had a lot of changes. The biggest of which has actually been the addition of this coupler, and And the reason why I've added a coupler is because the old version didn't have one, so it is something I've really wanted to fit into the new one. And the reason for that is that it can actually be used now to be pushed around with as well. I want to make a similar change to the Loco as well, so it actually has one of these, even if it's hidden, and you might need a bit of modification to actually make it viewable. But I really do like the sort of aesthetic of having a rear coupler. And in terms of the actual design work that's gone into making this usable, it's running on a 2x2 modified plate with the extra pin out, so it's the same attachment method as the bogies to the underframe. And it looks to be really strong, really durable, and to be honest, it's going to be pushed rather than pulled using this. I just hope that it actually can cope with if the marshalling trains. Hopefully this can cope with the full weight of the train behind it. And obviously you can see the marker lights, and there's actually one on each side. And historically, there seems to have been a lot of variation for streamlined cars and their marker lights. Some coaches only have 2 lights, so one would, for example, be down here, another one would be up here. You'd have some where it's just be on the sides, you'd have some where you just have one in the middle and no others. So I've sort of gone for a hybrid method, and I think this is sort of based on the Hiawatha tail end car in terms of the actual lighting for the ends. You've got the 2 marker lights on the side, and then you have the train board here, and obviously that's going to be the custom print piece in the future, but at the moment it's just a standard blue 2x2 tile. So whether that's mounted like that or like that, I've yet to decide. I might actually mount it like that for a bit of flair compared to the standard ones where it's square or it's round, because as a square like that, it is kind of uniform and boring, and very Lego-ish, sort of straight and square, whereas this, because it's sort of diamond, even though it's just a standard 2x2 plate down on its side, looks a lot better aesthetically and more pleasing aesthetically, because it doesn't actually match the rest of the coach. So obviously that would need to be printed up to be done. Aside from that, compared to the previous one, I've actually changed the 1x3 brick here to a blue one, again because I've been rebuilding both coaches into this one example. The biggest problems with this coach at the moment is simply from the lack of coloured parts, or parts in the correct colour. So these curved plates at the end, again they're using substitutions. I don't have any 1x3 plates in black, so again there's loads of substitutions for the end in the roof, and I think in 1-2 places on the chassis. Again, the underframe is using vastly miscoloured pieces, and he's actually needs some more of these curved bricks as per the Loco boiler section, because I've run out of those as well in the 4 stud long variant. All the windows except for one right at the end are missing from this side of the coach, and essentially it's just a load of, again, missing pieces in the wrong colour. But this coach, surprisingly, despite the increase in size, increase in parts count, etc., doesn't weigh that much more than the old one. And I may actually go instead of a 5-car rake, just go for a 4-car one, because obviously the extended length brings along an increased weight. But the reason why I'd go for 4 coaches instead of 5 is that the actual design is slightly different to when you originally envisaged. When I originally envisaged the Streamliner, it was actually going to be a completely blue Loco, and then a blue and white coaches. So essentially the design of the coach has pretty much stayed the same style, but the Loco has actually changed quite a lot. So that's it in terms of the physical side of things. Next I'll go on to Digital Designer and have a look at the digital changes to the model. One final thing before we go into LDD and have a look at the actual files is this coach side I've already prefabricated for a standard coach. This is obviously near enough a full coach with the exception of the doors and the end gangways. Moving on to LEGO Digital Designer, we can see an overview of the current coaches included in the file, and these are from top left the original mail or post car to the top right, which is the original kitchen car / diner, and then the bottom three of the super long variety are from middle left a standard coach, middle right a observation car which is identified by the trans red tail marker lights, and then in front of those two is the new version of the diner car. It should be noted that in this view you can also see the difference between the kitchen and standard underframe or belly, if you like, of the coaches, which is different between the kitchen and standard cars due to the use of equipment for the kitchen, such as the gas powered cookers or extra electric batteries, or from the extra water tanks used for the cooking. And this is detailed by some extra inlets as well as some grill bricks used for displaying light ventilation or a special insulation underneath the car. Moving on, we go to the side of a kitchen car now, and this is actually a view of the kitchen area. And despite its small size, this is remarkably well thought out and should cater for pretty much everything a kitchen car would require. Although it is on the small side, I'll probably be adding a section to it to act as storage, or alternatively modifying the kitchen section so it's just a little bigger so I can implement some more storage, although I might be tempted to have this connected to the end coach and then have a pantry unit in that as well to alleviate the storage issue. Moving on again, we can see inside the kitchen car, and you can actually see how narrow the kitchen has to be. Because this is only a 7 wide coach, and obviously 2 of those studs are taken up by the sides of the coach, that leaves only 5 for the interior, meaning that the kitchen, for the large part, is actually only 2 studs wide, with the dividing wall taking up the 3rd stud, and then another 2 studs for the gangway. To alleviate this, some of the kitchen equipment is actually set into the side of the car using panels, as well as a clever use of snot and jumper plates to get around some of the restrictions on the reduced size or scale of the 7 wide cars, as well as using 1x6x5 panels to create extra space on the kitchen side for staff to move around. Moving on to the next photo or screenshot, we have a look at the overall view of the standard coach car, and this may be being altered in the future because there are 4 tables in here and I want to try and remove excess tables where possible to try and fit in more seats, just as either pairs or as singles. And obviously at the moment this is a fairly open plan, but I might even have a go and see if I can put in some compartments as well, or at least some dividers, to make it look a bit more professional and upmarket as an express train would. You can also notice in this view the toilet section here circled in red, which, although not detailed at the moment, will have a toilet and wash basin in as well when the final design is complete. Moving on again, we go to the observation car end, and you can see here the different design for the mechanism for the coupler, as well as how it integrates with the end of the car. You can actually see on the end of the car that where the end diaphragm would be for connecting to another coach is actually the start point of the 3x3 curved plates which form the end or curve of the observation car face. So you can actually see here that it is literally a modification of the standard body shell to adapt to an observation car, as would be done in real life. Finally, we have a look into the observation car interior, and as you've seen previously, the current interior of the physical car is pretty much spot on, with the exception of a few missing seats and some, of course, some intricate colours for the car seats. And lastly, we come to the redesign of the tender. This not only includes a new body but also new bogies. The new body is 3 studs longer as per my original design brief, and will feature a new colour scheme to reflect the changing of the band from a 1 brick height to a 3 brick height as seen on the coaching stock. This will mean that the design for the brake vehicle, which will go behind the tender, does not actually have to reflect the change in design from the single brick high white band to the 3 brick high as seen in the window frames. The new bogies are built around the same wheelbase and overall design, although the bogie for connecting to the coaches features a magnetic coupler as seen for the coaching stock, as well as footboards for yard crews when running around yards or for station limits when they're connecting to or disconnecting from coaching stock. Also featured on the bogies are brake pipes and steam pipes, which are represented by using levers, although this may change to using tap pieces in the future, although the actual design of which still needs to be finalised. And this concludes the 2nd April update for the Streamliner project. This project may go on a bit of a hiatus due to financial constraints, so it may be being picked up again around June time. So I'll see you in the next update.